think we're ready now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our part 2 of Divination Tools. If you're new here, my name is Denay and I'll be your professor. I'm a psychic medium, spiritual mentor, and teacher. This morning, we're going to continue our discussion on divination tools. On Wednesday, we talked about scrying, we talked about tarot cards, we talked about oracle cards, we talked about bones. What else was there? Dowsing with pendulums, psychometry, and other methods like tea leaf reading and coffee ground reading. So today we're going to finish up that discussion. Let's see. Where were we? Okay, bibliomancy. Bibliomancy is basically a divination using sacred text, such as the Bible or the Quran or any other like sacred spiritual text, the Torah, things like that, the Enuma Elish, okay, depending on what your beliefs are. So what happens when you using a book for divination purposes is that you're beginning with an intention. You may say a prayer or you'll set an intention. And then you open that book up to any page. And the first sentence or the first verse, right, is seen as the message for guidance. Some folks will just use their finger to like read it, you know. Other folks may use a pendulum and they'll hold it over the book for it to pinpoint out a specific word. And then they'll use that as their guidance for whatever intentions they set prior to opening the book for their bibliomancy practice. People that use this type of divination tool would be like Christian mystics or even clergy. It was used early in Catholic and Orthodox traditions. Hoodoo and folk practitioners may also use it. Here in the Caribbean, might be more prevalent. And then also Islamic scholars who would use the Quran in a similar manner. Okay. If y'all have any questions about anything that I'm discussing today, please make sure that you are putting your questions in the comments and I'll answer them as we go along. You don't have to wait till the end of the class. I will respond to you. If you are watching this as a replay on my YouTube channel, The Sacred Lotus Temple, thank you guys for watching. And then also, if you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below and I will respond to you individually. Another divination tool is stone casting, otherwise known as lithomancy. And so Celtic and indigenous cultures would practice this. So it's basically where you're using crystals, stones, or even gemstones as a way to reveal messages. So what you would do is you would give each stone some type of meaning, okay? So let me give you an example of, like for me, I have crystals in front of me. I might use this crystal. This is rose quartz, and it might represent something. I might put some type of symbol on it for whatever it may represent. And what you would do is basically you would cast them, right? So you shake them up, you know, and you throw them out like dice, right? And then depending on how they land, how they're facing each other, then that's how you would get a revealed message. The ancient Celtics and the Druids would use these stones for prophecy. Indigenous and other shamanic cultures worldwide practice this stone reading. And then also modern energy healers incorporate crystals into their spiritual work as well. And again, stone casting is called lithomancy. So if that's something that you're interested in, please make sure that you look it up and get more information on that. And something else that I find to be really interesting as far as divination is omen interpretation, right? Using natural signs or even animals. It's called augury, Augury. And it was used in ancient Roman times as well as Greek and indigenous traditions. And this is basically where they would pay attention to like the flight patterns of birds or animal behavior or even weather signs like lightning, rainbows, and the wind directions. And then it could indicate some type of spiritual message. So I'll give you two examples, right? What was it, like maybe last year, early last year, the year before? Do you guys recall when people's animals on their farms were walking in circles? Do you guys recall that, when the sheep were walking in circles? And then even more recently, within the last 2 weeks, I know it's come out about that black devil anglerfish who was literally swimming from the abyss of the ocean to the sea surface. And that's very rare. So if you would see something like that, right, a fish that you know that does not come to the surface, and if they do, it's rare, then you know that there is something happening. There's either some type of major predator, there's either some type of maybe volcanic eruption under the ocean, or even an earthquake. There is something going on that is causing this fish to go to the surface. So the Romans and Greeks believed that the way that birds would fly would reveal divine will. And then many indigenous traditions believe that animals bring messages from ancestors or spirits. In regards to the weather, how you can use the weather, I know sometimes for me, I always look at the sky when I'm leaving in the morning to either go run my errands or to take the kiddos to school. I always see what's going on in the sky, always. And so what was this, maybe Monday or Tuesday, we were leaving out of the house, and I noticed that not only did the sky look weird, and by weird it was just darker. And I'll say this, that I knew that it was supposed to rain like the next day. Nevertheless, the sky looked ominous, and there was also a very different type smell in the air. It smelled kind of like an electrical fire, or like metal was on fire. Okay? And so anyways, fast forward to the next day, and of course I already knew that it was supposed to rain. But then around 1 p.m., 2 p.m., we got these alerts of tornado watches. Thankfully, it didn't hit in our area. You know, prayers go out to those who it affected in Alabama. But nevertheless, that is how I utilize like what's going on in the skies to tell me what's happening or what is to come. Okay? I've always been that way. I've always looked up at the skies. Maybe it was a longing for home. Who knows? Maybe it was just because that's just me, you know, where I look at the sky and I try to figure out what is going to happen. I can also tell you, like, if I look up at the sky and I'm like, oh, it's going to be a beautiful day. And it's a beautiful day, right? Whether if it's because the sun is shining or just a feeling that I get. That is how I use omen interpretation when it comes to the weather patterns. Let me know in the comments, y'all, if any of you guys have ever experienced that as well. Maybe you like to pretend to see, you know, or look at the shapes of the clouds to determine what they may look like: a cat, a dog, a whatever, a horse, an elephant. If you do those things, you may be clairvoyant. So people who use these types of divinations, right, these omen interpretations, were the ancient Roman priests, Native American and African spiritualists. Those folks read the animal signs. The ancient Romans would interpret, the birds' movements for emperors. And then modern practitioners of animism and shamanism observe nature for their messages. And this one I just learned about. I'm not really too familiar with it. It's called domino divination. It's pronounced sortilege. And this is a Chinese and even an African diaspora tradition. And so I'm just going to read to you what it says. I've never practiced this before, but it seems very interesting. But it's basically using numbers to interpret messages. So divination, also known as sortilege, involves interpreting messages based on numbers and patterns formed by casting dominoes. So a person shuffles and draws a certain number of dominoes. The number combinations correspond to specific meanings, much like dice divination, and often used to answer yes/no questions or determine luck in a given situation. The folks that would use this are Chinese fortune tellers. They use dominoes in traditional readings. And then Hoodoo, Santeria, and Ifa practitioners use similar methods with sacred numbers. So this kind of goes back to what we talked about in our first week of class, of how basically nothing means nothing until you as the individual gives it a meaning. Okay? Until you give it power, until you put energy behind it, then that is where the meanings come from. So when you're using any type of tool and you get to create the meanings of what each tool is, or what each tool is used for, then that is where the the magic would come from. My Shima, can I ask a question? Does it have to do with the class? If you want any type of psychic reading, you'll have to wait till the end of the class, and then that does require a donation to my Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo. All right, let's move on. Bone reading, osteomancy. This is by African, indigenous, and Hoodoo traditions. Osteomancy, or bone casting, is an ancient practice where bones, shells, and small trinkets are thrown to interpreted based on their landing positions. So each bone would represent some type of energy, ancestor, or a deity. And then their placement, distance, and orientation from each other would determine what the message revealed. Okay, about the future, about the situation, about a person, whatever it may be. And so practitioners often will invoke spirits or ancestors for guidance before they even cast these bones, okay? I also want to share that it is important that before you start doing the divination, I'm not telling you that you have to, but I am saying that it is common, right? Is for you to call upon your ancestors for assistance during your divination. You may say something like, and I'm coming from like a Hoodoo background, okay? I would say, I call down the love of my ancestors. I call down the peace of the ancestors. I call down the wisdom of the ancestors. I call down the strength of the ancestors. I call down the protection of the ancestors. You are my flesh of my flesh. You are bone of my bone. You are blood of my blood. I am your sacred altar. Okay? Now, if there's a specific ancestor that you want to call down, then you can replace the ancestor part with that. Okay? Just keep in mind that it's all energy. Energy never ceases. So when you're calling down your benevolent, uplifting, loving, caring ancestors, then all of that energy combined is going to come down. You and your ancestors are of the same, right? Without them, there'd be no you. Their blood runs through your blood. Their memories are your memories. Okay? All right? Your DNA is their DNA. So I encourage you guys to call upon them as you're doing any type of spiritual work, any type of divination. Of course, your higher self as well. But side note, because this is your journey and your life is your life, you have to do things that are in alignment with who you are. I am just giving you suggestions on how to do certain things. If you want to do it differently, or what I say doesn't resonate with you, that's absolutely fine. I'm just sharing with you what I've been taught and what I know to work. Okay? It's kind of like when what was that line when in that show Reading Rainbow, and he'd be like, but you don't have to take my word for it, right? Trying to get you to understand, like, you don't have to take my word for it, but just try it and see how it goes. You know what I mean? All right, let's get back to this. I was saying that each bone or object represents a specific energy, ancestor, or deity. The folks that would use this are like the ATRs, right? The African traditional religions such as Ifa, Voodoo, or even Zulu divination. Hoodoo and root worker practitioners, the conjurers, the healers in the U.S. and the Caribbean. And then the indigenous shamans worldwide use bones, shells, and stones. And then our last divination tool, and mind you, these are not all of them. These are just the most common, okay, is I Ching. And this is Chinese divination. Again, I'm not a practitioner of this, so I'll just read to you what it's about. And if you have an interest in it, feel free to look it up yourself. But I Ching, or Book of Changes, is an ancient Chinese system of divination based on 64 hexagrams, which represent universal forces and wisdom. A person, how would it be used? A person would toss three coins or yarrow sticks 6 times to create a hexagram. You know what? I think I have yarrow sticks. They're like in a red container. They look like long matches, but they're not. I can't think of where they are. I want to say that they're over there, but nevertheless, I should have thought about that earlier. I apologize. I would have shown them to you. Okay, so you toss the sticks or the coins to create a hexagram. And then the resulting pattern is interpreted using the I Ching text, offering wisdom about life and decision making. Often used by deep philosophical and spiritual insight, such as Taoist and Confucian scholars. Modern spiritual seekers exploring Eastern wisdom might use these as well. And then also feng shui practitioners use it to analyze energy flow and spaces. Let me see if I could look up what yarrow sticks are so I can show you guys. Yeah, I have these. I wish I can find them. Well, this looks like incense, but I guess this is like similar. Okay, so here's the yarrow sticks, and then see right here are the 3 coins. Sorry, the light on the back. Anyways, so that's what that would look like. They even have like little I Ching gift boxes. This is how it would look. So if you guys are interested in looking up that information, go ahead and do so on your own. Just know that all these divination tools are used to really tap into your own intuition and for spiritual guidance, right? So each one is rooted in its own cultural traditions. I'm not telling y'all to go appropriate anyone's tradition. I'm not telling y'all to just go start and using it. Don't be like, oh, Denay said I could do this. I didn't say that. There's nothing wrong with having an interest in something and learning about it. But make sure that if it is a tool that is not of like your own cultural practice, it may behoove you to seek a teacher of that culture, of that practice, to really share with you how to utilize the tool appropriately. Okay? So the major takeaways that we're going to take from this class today is that intuition grows stronger with practice, which is true. You're going to have to trust the messages that you receive. Divination tools are aids, not crutches. Your intuition is the main source of wisdom. Okay? Keep in mind that you are the magic. The tool is just the tool. Okay? Some with tarot cards, right? As a psychic medium, I may be on a roll. I'm giving someone a reading. I'm hitting this, that, and the third. I might pull some cards and see something like the 4 of Wands, and then something else is gonna come to me from it. So for the 4 of Wands, this would be a wedding or some type of celebration. Now, let's say I'm reading for a woman. Actually, I did a reading for a woman last week or earlier this week, and I pulled this card for her, and she's like, "Oh, that reminds me of my daughters." You know, we can sell it. See how all will go together. An image may spark more information to be given. Also, as you're doing your divination work, or practicing or learning how to use the tools, make sure that you're keeping a journal and you're writing down your progress and any patterns that you notice based off of the tools that you're using, and any insights as well. It's also very important to stay grounded while you're practicing. Always protect your energy before and after divination. And then lastly, have fun. Okay? Approach intuition and divination with curiosity and not fear. All right? That's the end of this class for today. It's very short. We went over most of all the other things on Wednesday. That course has been uploaded to my YouTube channel, the Sacred Lotus Temple. You can go ahead and check that class out if you missed it if you missed the last class, right? You can go ahead and check that out. Make sure that you're liking the video. Make sure that you are subscribing. If you're here on TikTok right now as I'm live. Please make sure that you're following me. And then if you are watching this replay on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe. Check the notification bell so that you know you're notified of when new videos are posted. Okay? So I'm going to stop recording the live right now if no one has any questions. And if anyone would like to donate for any type of reading, you can send that to my Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo.